Hello everyone. Better weather this week, so there's more of us, which is nice. And hello Zoomers. It's the 4th session of the CEC. We'll be half done after tonight. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the survey, and I appreciate you that do it. I had 13 respondents, but they had some good points. And one of the things I want to talk about is next year, as all you know, this is my first year. Next year, if there's a 16th annual, there will be more time for a few things like Business Link, social media. Somebody suggested it could be a whole session, and I think it's relevant in today's age, and it certainly could be a whole session. So we talked about that in the office, and we don't really have any problem with adding a couple more sessions next year if it goes ahead. So thanks for those suggestions. One survey asked me a question about employment law, and I sent it off to the lawyers that were supposed to be here last week, but they couldn't come with Dan. And to give you an idea, the question was, I beefed it up a little bit, but if I write and get a contractor to sign a contract stating they are being hired on a contractual basis and that I am not paying, contributing our EI, CPP, or withholding taxes, nor paying them vacation pay, would that cover me? The person asked. Hello, sign in, Colton. She said, as I have a hired contract worker on a piece-by-piece sewing contract business. Remember they talked about that last week? So I sent it off to Jennifer and Bruce, the Gowling lawyers that are involved with employment law. And she sent us back a blurb and an attachment. So I have put in last week's training session material the contacts of those two lawyers, the response to this question, and the attachment with regard to CRA, because that would be very helpful for you. Go ahead.
The attachment wasn't showing up. I couldn't get it to open.
Did you, you led me to, I put it in there two ways. One is text. So in the other email one, you couldn't open it either?
Yeah, there was one that had an attachment, but that would not open.
Okay.
But I did see the question and the answer.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's done two different ways or two different things.
Could you, from the text, copy the link and then put it in your own internet browser? Okay, I will look at that, everybody. She is saying that the attachment from the CRA, maybe I'll print off the CRA attachment and then put that in. Thank you for letting me know that. So that's in last week's training information. It'll be helpful for you in the future. The other thing about the surveys, I wasn't smart enough to put in the right spot, so I'm going to skip that for a moment. Tonight we're going to do operations, get, grow, keep customers, making cold sales calls, obligations beyond the sale, things like warranties and recalls and Privacy Act, etc. We've got some great speakers tonight, but I'm not going to tell you who they are just yet. Oh, that's where it is. Homework. Page 38, 39, and 44 in the handbook will get you going for homework on this session. And I mentioned that about adding stuff to the Google link, but I'll fix that. Oh, somebody was trying to get information on their phone and they're having trouble. So I don't know if that was a Zoomer or a person in attendance, but if you can't get to a computer, stop by my office. I'd be happy to print off whatever you need. But I'm not going to bring handouts to the sessions because it's just too cumbersome. But stop by the office. I'll print out anything you need that you can't get if you can't get to a phone. If you can't get to a computer versus a phone. And like I said, social media could be a whole session. Isn't that interesting? Well, then I'll minimize it. And I'm going to open, oh, there. I don't know why that's happening. But Bill, I said you were from Haley Consulting. You're contracted with Community Futures Lethbridge Region and Tech Connect. And we also have one of our major sponsors. She's pretty special. This bugs me. There she is. But it wouldn't bug her. Lindsay is just so down to earth. She is with the Regional Innovation Network of Southern Alberta, and RINSA, as you see on our banner and on our sponsor list, is our major sponsor. She sponsors the $10,000 of the Tech Stream Grand Prize, their company anyway. So we welcome them. They're asking for lots of interaction tonight, and I hope you'll get to them. And if you don't, I'll volunteer your company types to them anyway. So I'm going to close this guy if I can do it and open theirs. Please welcome Bill and Lindsay. Here's your clicker once I get you open.
As Penny's opening that, I'll stay within my, so people
Desk to desk.
can see me
and
from
repeat over
remote
here.
sites. So the way this works is I talk and Lindsay will talk about some technology related business development. I'm in strictly more business, Lindsay business and technology. But the important thing is as we go through these slides is for you to ask us questions. It's a little difficult after you went through 20 or 30 slides, and after an hour, you get a question about slide number 2, and you go all the way back, and the other folks are sitting there thinking, why are we going all the way back 19 slides? So, interaction is very important here. And we're going to give you lots of time to ask the questions, because we put these presentations together, but we can't read your mind, right? So we think that this is some of the stuff that you should know about based on the topic, based on a lot of the clients that we have dealt with over 6-7 years now. Now I'm close to 500 clients over those years. So we see these topics and think, well, this is what people should know. But you have all individual businesses. So you really owe it to yourself to ask questions, because your business, in many cases, you may have your life savings in that business. You certainly have your dreams as part of that business. You have the desires of what you want to do with your life in that business. So don't just walk away with an unanswered question or I'll just figure it out myself. So please ask the questions. Those of you in remote sites, as well as people in the room. Okay? Lindsay? Bill? Lindsay? She's the smart person. I'm the helper. So, hobby or business. If you have a good idea that may be novel, maybe totally new, you may have some sales, right? Okay, that's a good hobby, and it can get you by if it's a lifestyle type business. But if you want something that you want to continue from a hobby into a business and sell something, then you really have to have it validated. You have to have a market strategy, and you have to have the financials behind your business plan to make it into a business. There is a significant difference between a hobby, it's a new idea, and I have some sales, and a business that is really driven by a marketing strategy, a plan, a go-to-market program that has milestones in it, and the financials to back it. This is an ideal time of the year to do this, because here we are in January, soon to be February. So you got to ask yourself, where do I want my business to be at the end of this year? Think about that. Here I am. Where do you want it to be 11 months from now? And then back that up to maybe 4 quarters. And I would challenge you to say, where do you want to be between now and the end of March, the end of June, the end of September, then the end of the year. And when you have a business plan that breaks that down and has these measurable goals, measurable actions, come March, you can look back and see what you've done, and you can feel pretty proud about your business, about your plan. Because you say, hey, I set out this plan for myself. You don't forget the goal that you have for the end of the year. But in March, end of March, you can look back and here's what I did in the last 2-3 months. Great. Okay, my next plan between now and the end of June is these milestones. Maybe it's going to a trade show. Maybe it's going to market a product. Maybe I'm going to connect with certain customers. And then, the end of June, you look back, here's what I did. That way, you're going to be in more control of your business, in control of your business plan, and you can, we're going to hear the word pivot. I know some of you have heard this word before, pivoting. But you can pivot because guess what? You're never going to go from 0 to 100 in a straight line. Sorry, folks, life's not like that. And it's going, sorry, I'm sorry, this isn't Disneyland, sorry. You're going to have deviation along the way. But if you have a plan that allows for that deviation, then it's not a catastrophe, right? You're not looking at a problem going, I'm going to shut down my business. You say, wait a minute, I allowed for that to happen. Don't like it, but now I can pull out plan B and kind of go along a little bit until we can get this resolved, whatever it may be. So, validation, we're going to talk about that a lot. I'm a big proponent of validation. Fundamentally, get a good idea, who's going to buy it? How do you know they're going to buy it? Why would they buy it? Marketing strategy, so very important. Differs a lot from sales, we'll talk about that. And of course, the finances to do it. And that's part of your business plan. In the business plan here, they ask for 5 years in their financial plan? 5 or 3? Maybe 5, but I always look at 3. First year's your action, second year's your dwell on what you've done, plan for the 3rd year. But that's the way I do it. So, some of you out there, and we have seen it so many times, that my idea as an entrepreneur is, my need is just give me the money. Give me a grant, life is good. That's all I need. Give me that money and off I go. No, not necessarily so. Particularly if you are a person that has technology. So many times over the last 7 years, we've saw people in the early stages of their technology getting a fund to take them in that direction with their technology. Now, as we all know, technology changes very fast. And not far into the grant, they realize, I get funding to go here. And now my customers are telling me I should go here. Sorry, funding says you go there. So that's why it's important not to get funding or grants too early in your cycle. Again, I point back to the validation process. Okay? So again, any questions you ask us along the way, because this is important for you.
How often, you'll have to repeat it, but how often does the government give that seat voucher stuff that technology was, Tech Connect was advising us all out,
Right.
say, a couple months ago?
So we have a question about they're called seed vouchers that are available for the next short period of time through an entrepreneur and incubator program. That program is actually coming to an end. And those seed vouchers, we're actually now tapering off applications for those seed vouchers. And the program is actually going to end at the end of March, which is the end of the government's fiscal year. Now, when we talk about these grants, and I'll dwell on that just briefly, there's 2 sets of grants when you hear about this voucher stuff. I don't want to go into it in too much detail because it's made more complicated than it should be. And when you talk to people about it, it sounds even more complicated. So we try to keep it simple, and that's never easy. Alberta Innovates, there's Alberta Innovates Entrepreneur Incubator Program for startup companies. They have these seed vouchers, give people a boost to get their business going, built around a technological innovation. That was a 2-year pilot program, and that's coming to an end, like I say, at the end of March. Now, Alberta Innovates also has what they call micro voucher and voucher programs, again for technology. This is the person you talk to about that. That's ongoing, and it still has life. So the next one.
But
The next one.
and this is going back to Bill's comment about don't chase the money, right? Don't write a business plan around a grant you think you're going to get or you think you're going to qualify for. We're about to have an election. Now, are all of those vouchers going away? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that the new government coming, if there's a new government coming in, might decide they want to focus on this side of industry or this type of business. They may take those vouchers and revision them into something completely different. And you just can't count on those kinds of things, particularly when they're tied back to provincial or federal funding, because it's political and the governments change. So when you're writing your business plans or you're looking at your financial outlook, don't chase the money. The money should come on top of it. If you have something in your business plan and you know what's the next logical step, then you say, oh, I wonder if there's anything that can offset that a little bit for me. And that's how you want to bring in those pieces. Then you can come talk to somebody like myself, for example. I'm an advisor with Alberta Innovates. Part of my job is to help find what fits what you're doing, not make it fit. There's a big difference in that, right? So if you come, lay out your plan to me, say, you know, I'm looking at this, this, and this, and geez, it would really help if I had something to just help cushion it a little bit. It might not be Alberta Innovates. I might take you over to National Research Council. I might take you over somewhere else. There are a lot of opportunities, but you shouldn't chase the money. That's the big thing, right? Asking questions about what's available is a good thing. Educating yourself on what's available, but don't make that the backbone of your plan. Okay?
Very good. That's still essential because when you are in that right spot, an application to these programs, whether it be Alberta Innovates, an ag program, there's lots of programs in agriculture. There's CAPE funding, the Canadian Agricultural Partnership Program. But when you're in that right spot, making an application becomes so much easier because it's easier to convince an adjudicator that you're doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons for the business and not, as Lindsay says, chase the money, because you do not want to do that. And usually those get turned down.
Well, and the other thing too to remember is, especially if you're in some kind of innovative or technology field, the funding doesn't always move as fast as you need it to. And that's a big deal for a lot of people. If you're building up an app or software company or something like that, you could have the thing coded by the time the funding application is finally approved and through all the red tape. And so that's been an issue, and it is top of mind for some organizations like Alberta Innovates, and we know we don't move as fast as we need to for those things, but turning that ship to move that fast is going to take a long time. So again, that's why it's better to come in and see what your resources and your options and opportunities are. There are a lot of things out there. I've seen software companies go to crowdfunding. I've seen software companies go to donors and angel investors and you name it. There's so many different sources. So that's why it's good to have the conversations, especially when you're in those kinds of technologies, because if you're coding a piece of software, someone's going to be right behind you coding it right behind you. Don't kid yourself. They're going to get to market before you if you put everything on pause just to wait for a grant application to come through. So just perspective.
And that leads into the next one, which is really what Lindsay's talking about. And that the real need that we have seen for scores of entrepreneurs across a wide range of industries, it's the coaching, which is most important in the early stages. Then connecting to the community, and that community, as Penny talked about, is this RINSA group, this Regional Innovation Network of Southern Alberta, which Tech Connect or Economic Development Lethbridge is part of. Community Futures is part of, the university is, and Alberta Innovates is, and the college, there's NRC, there's two other regional groups, Blood Tribe Economic Development are also part of that. So using and being referred throughout the community is very good for entrepreneurs who are starting, because no one person has all the answers. But what we can do is connect you to people who can help you. And in nearly every case, this advice is free to you. So use the community and certainly use the network, because while we may not have the direct answer for your technology or your business, your retail store, we can ultimately find someone who can, even if it's exporting.
And especially somewhere like Lethbridge, You go into centers like Calgary and Edmonton, they've got the breadth of resources to deal with different niche markets, right? Of startups and things like that. There's Startup Calgary, there's Tech Edmonton, there's Startup Edmonton, there's all these things. We just don't have that bandwidth of resources in Lethbridge. So we have all these best kept secret networks and things like that. And part of it is a little bit of, well, if you talk to so-and-so, they'll point you to Bill or, you know, that kind of thing. I can't tell you how many entrepreneurs I've talked to where I said, well, where did you hear about the regional network? Bill. Okay. So, you know we need to do a better job about promoting ourselves and making ourselves aware and available. But because we don't have that breadth of resources, that's why these institutions come together. That's why the college and the university and economic development Lethbridge work so closely together to try to support startup companies, student startups. We've been working really closely with Agility. We've been working with Agent out of the college. So there's a renewed focus on entrepreneurship even at the post-secondaries right now. And we really want to build that up. But it also means you guys coming to us. We can't just go out and try to search for you. You've got to know to come to us and be open to that. And it can be very scary. And I am going to say that, you know, because as soon as you say you have an idea out loud, it's real, right? Mm-hmm. It's really good to yourself behind closed doors, even online, you're floating it a little bit out on social media and you get all these likes and everything's awesome. But when you come to a meeting with a real person and have to talk about your idea in terms of business, that's a scary thing, but it's a super exciting first step. So I would encourage everybody to make the time. And as Bill says, almost all of it's free. So why not leverage that and take advantage? And in somewhere like Lethbridge in Southern Alberta, where everything's relationship-based, and it just is, it's really important to make those connections, and it's amazing who you can get paired up with along the way. That's my plug for the community.
Finding out about business link, about tech.
Exactly.
Retail, just have number BDC.
Great.
You know, we got the Dillon School of Management, we got the college. All of those
There's more
places
out there than people realize.
Yes.
Right?
When you don't need to dig through it all, you just need to ask the questions and show you can be coached. And therein lies one of the fundamental things that we expect of an entrepreneur. And the question we often ask each other, is that person coachable? Are they coming here with, this is my idea, and this is going to work, so you just tell me what I want to hear, and life will be good. I'm not that kind of person if you're asking those questions. So don't ask them. So let's get that clear. The region that Lindsay's talking about is quite large. It's actually Taborn West and about Nanton South. So we and this community deal with people, entrepreneurs throughout that whole region. And at any one time, there can be dozens of them, completely different businesses. So reach out, because they really are here to help you. And on coaching, like I say, there's not one size fits all. There's no coach that knows all of it. So together we work with clients. We pool the ideas from advisors, both myself and Lindsay, and there's another person called Kyle Koskowicz, who's with the National Research Council, and we can work together with clients. You know, we love family and friends, right? Family, friends. We investors, we've got family, friends, and fools. Is that what they call it? I'm not going to say that, so don't quote me. But family and friends, they're great for support, right? They're really good. So, you have a question? Sorry.
So, just before this topic, we were talking about being about idea, you come to us and then discuss about it. What are the consequences if that idea has been?
So the question is, if I have an idea and that idea is already out there or has been stolen, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we can't come to you, we discuss that
Right.
with you guys, and then by the time we got it ready, we go to market.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it is not patented and it is gone.
So again, the question of if I have an idea and by the time they come for advice, it's already out there in the marketplace, then you definitely need to come and talk. Because through discussion, this is where this idea of pivoting comes in. Because quite often, we will talk to a client and we talk to them about their idea and they say, well, it's already out there already. I didn't get ahead of me. So then we talk about alternatives. Have you thought of this market? Have you thought of this industry? Have you thought of doing it in another region that maybe it's not there? So talking through where those issues are and come up with alternatives is really the thing that's going to drive that discussion. So I would say, come and talk to the advisors, and we have a number of them who can help you through that. But you really need then to get on to this pivoting. Okay, can I take some of my idea and reinvent it into something else? And sometimes as an independent advisor, we can look at something, and with so much experience, and it's not just me, all the advisors, we can look at something and say, but maybe that would fit in oil and gas. And we have many examples. I'm going to speak to some. There was a product that was invented for oil and gas, for example, and it was out there, it was working. Person came to us, said, I can't sell it there, it's already out in the marketplace. But we looked at it and said, there might be an opportunity to modify that design and use it in healthcare. So of course, he's sitting there, well, oil and gas, healthcare, completely different industries. But by pivoting and changing that design and that product a little bit, he got that niche into that market. There was another case where it was a healthcare product which was already being used in Alberta Health, but this person changed it slightly, exactly the same, very similar product, but he had changed it, and he sold it to the military, sold it to the army medical hospitals who didn't take the civilian product. So don't just draw the bridge down and say, I can't sell my product. Come and talk, and maybe there's ways that you haven't thought of. You know, it's like being in your garden, right? You have the garden fence or the wall, and all your problems are in your garden until someone helps you to look over. And sometimes there's something over there that can help. So.
And I think one thing to keep in mind is when you come to the system like that, like whether it's Bill or myself or anything like that, we're bound by confidentiality. We have forms that we fill out with you. So whether it's, you know, maybe you're fearful that somebody down the road stole the idea and you want to talk about it or that kind of thing, when you come and talk to us, that's a confidential conversation, right? So a good example is Alberta Innovates has a free patent search, IP search, that I can request on your behalf. If you're concerned that somebody has stolen an idea and you really want to check into an IP or patent and see if anything's been actually logged in there, it's not as in-depth as a patent lawyer would do, but it's a free service for a high level for a high-level search with a really decent report that comes back for it. So those are the kinds of resources that we have at our disposal to be able to help out with things like that. And again, at least you have that comfort of knowing you're coming into a confidential conversation. That information isn't going to go anywhere else, and it won't be discussed with other people. So it'll help.
So don't feel you're alone in these problems. Please come ask, right? Because there's been many people who've been in that. That leads me into competition. Lindsay mentioned it briefly. We so many times have people come to us, I get this product, it's brand new, it's wonderful, mom and dad, brother, sister, people down the street told me it's just fantastic. And no one else has this, no one else sells it, you can't find it on the internet, it's just not available. I would advise you not to go to an advisor and say that, because there's always competition. In some shape or form, it's going to be out there. So don't discard it. If some people will go and do a Google search on that product, say, it doesn't look like mine. It's nothing like mine. Mine is better because mine is yellow and theirs is blue. So I like yellow, so mine is better. You have to look at these very objectively. And one thing about the patent search that Lindsay was talking about is very good for that. Actually gives you a report, and it actually gives you connections to the actual patents. So it allows you to be very objective in your review. Because I remember, guys, you don't want to be out there spending a whole bunch of money, whether it be a storefront, buying product, trying to develop a new product, taking a niche product, and then you find out, geez, I didn't know that stuff was in Amazon.
And I think this is really important for your business plan. You have to talk about your competition in your business plan, and they're not going to accept there is no competition. They're not going to accept that. The question is, what problem are you solving? And how are people solving it if they don't have your thing? That's the question. That's your competition. They may not solve it the way you've invented or created or going to provide, but they're solving it somehow. It could be a homemade thing, but they're solving it somehow. And that's the competition you're up against. In your business plan, when you're detailing your competition in those pieces, what a reader of your business plan should get out is, this is what you're up against, but this is how you're going to differentiate and pull them over to you. That's what should come out of reading your business plan with the competition piece.
Direct and indirect competition.
Direct and indirect competition, that's right.
So we're going to touch on this a little bit. I know it won't apply to many of you here, patents and patenting.
And Dan was here last week.
Yes.
Dan was here. Yeah, well, he's a great guy. So Dan gave you the lecture, no life. He's a great guy. So he told you what a patent is and what it isn't, all that stuff. But to me, whenever people talk, they'll come to us and say, I've already patented that, as if for some reason that's going to make everybody buy it. Not necessarily so. So, and I won't go over that because if Dan told you, he knows the stuff. But sometimes it's the right thing to do. Not always. Quite often, trademarking is as good as or better than a patent.
So I'm scared. Do anybody have questions? Just because Dan was here last week, you might have a question.
I've known Dan for many, many years. He's a good guy. Did he give you the $10 million when you get a patent question? That's what he used to say. If you're going to get a patent, you have to make $10 million over the 20-year lifespan of a patent. $500,000 a year. If you can't, don't do it. So he's a good guy for that. So, yes, Dan. Okay.
Do we pay for credits?
Pardon?
Annually, do we pay for
Yes.
credits?
The question is annually, do you pay for patents? You pay a maintenance fee for patents to the website. I'm not sure it is now, $250 or something.
Yeah, it's not as much as the
Yeah,
original cost.
no.
All that cost is borne up front.
Right.
And that's why we do encourage to use some of those patent search pieces up front. Like the Alberta Innovates one is free. It can save you $6,000 to $8,000 right
Yeah.
up front on just those
Very
initial
good.
searches.
Yeah.
But most of the money out of pocket is going to come in that upfront cost, because that could be thousands and thousands of dollars. And then the maintenance is a more nominal fee every year.
Yeah.
For 20 years.
Yeah. Well, it's to keep you on their website. It's to keep them that's just the
It's
fee.
like an admin fee.
That's right.
That's what they label it as. It's like an administrative fee. to keep
And
the patent active.
you really have no choice. Get the patent, you pay the money. Don't pay the money, they'll take it off.
Yeah.
So if you can afford to get a patent, you're going to afford the maintenance fees, but it's for 20 years. So again, we see this too, hopefully that, yes, that's good. The idea that when I develop my product and operationally, because we're going to talk operationally in a lot of the stuff you're going to go through with this topic. Operationally, my curve is I'm going to go from 0 to 100. And it's going to be very, very easy. All I've got is just my feasibility idea, my operations. I'm going to get my product together, start my web page, my website in the market, making a bunch of money. And people believe that. They truly do. Unfortunately, life's not like that, as I said earlier, because the reality is there's going to be a lot of twists and turns. And operationally, when you're starting a business, and when you look at ideas of how do I expand, some cases retain my customer, reevaluate my customer's need, you're going to hear us talk about this idea of minimum viable product, or MVP. So in this situation, which is more akin to what we see in business development, is you investigate the idea. And this is where you may do your patent search, go out and check the competition. Sometimes you go out and buy the product, you size it up, and so you really understand what's out there. And then you're going to come up with this feasibility and this minimum viable product. So let me tell you what an MVP is not. It is not, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make this thing because that's what I'm going to sell. It's not going out and building your website or getting that patent or building a working prototype. An MVP can be just on a piece of paper, your idea, because you're going to use that to then go out and interview, yes, interview potential clients on what their pain is. We talk about pains and what their jobs are. The pains are really, what is it I want done? What would I buy that solves my problem? So you build up this minimum viable product, and you may go to your friends, families, and some people you may know in that business. And you're going to ask them some questions. We're going to get to those in a few minutes, but asking these questions is very tricky. Very tricky. It's not easy. And you always ask questions of things that's happened, not things that will happen. Very important that. So then you go into your next stage of MVP. You may be getting to maybe 70% of where you want your product to be. And this is when you're really talking these interviews and the validation. You haven't made anything yet. The important thing is now you're trying to discover your clients, this customer discovery. Sometimes you have a product, you have to switch. I was going to sell it there, but someone's already selling into that market. Maybe I switch over here. And that often happens. And then there's a point where maybe you're at 80% your product development. And that's where you're going to go into your market, your initial market survey. Maybe you go through crowdfunding and say, I'm going to get a group of 50, 100 trial customers. You go out and try my product. The deal is you give me honest feedback, objective feedback. Don't tell me what I want to hear. And then you're going to assess this idea of market pool. Think of it as a chain, right? You can't push it to anyone. The market can only pull your product. Then you have to iterate, you have to change. Then you go back and do it again. The whole notion of doing this is you spend very little money. Time, yeah, lots of time. If you want to put your life on hold to do this, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your dream, then let's try and set you on a path where operationally you can set yourself up closer to that success in the green line rather than just going at it and hoping it'll work. Because believe it or not, hope is not a strategy.
So I'm going to make a connection for you. We're going to talk about sales later. Here's your connection to sales. If you're not willing to talk about your product in the early conception stage and get out there and talk to people about it, how are you ever going to sell it a year from now? Because you are going to certainly have to talk to a lot of people to sell it. So the first thing is get comfortable with that notion. Because if you're in this business, and chances are you're not going to have a sales team doing it for you for a really long time, you need to get comfortable. Get comfortable with what you're asking and how to talk to people. Use it as a bit of a practice, as a lesson on how to engage and talk to people. Cold, going up to somebody you don't know and talking to them about what your idea is and asking those questions. But the other thing I'm going to say is a lot of the information you gain through these stages is going to help your sales messaging later. Because you're going to hear how your potential clients talk back to you about what you're about to sell to them. And using that messaging later on, so don't think of it as I'm just capturing this information now for the creation. Keep it. Yeah. Value that information for later on, because as you craft your sales strategies and your branding and your messaging and how to talk about it, you want to talk to somebody. If I'm going to sell you a product, I want to talk about it in a way you understand to make you want to buy it. So you're going to use a lot of that feedback that they give you later on in your sales strategies. So make sure you make that connection when you're doing some of that initial work, because you're going to use it later on.
It's tricky, I know. It's like coming up here and showing your pitch, right? Because as the owner of the business, you're going to be the charismatic leader, person who's out there doing all this stuff. We see it, especially, particularly with those people with technology. Sorry for going back, talking about that. But hey, I like my technology. I love it. Leave me alone. Just let me work in my technology, because when I get on my website, people are just going to buy it. Yeah, but who worries about the marketing strategy, the go-to-market plan, the finances, hiring, insurance. I don't want to talk about that. But you're it. Like Lindsay says, until you have a sales force, you're going to be it. And at the start of a lot of these programs, when they may ask you if you want to pitch or come up and talk about your idea, everybody kind of walks away and hides under a desk and don't look at me. Well, there will be a time, we hope, when someone says, would anybody like to talk to their business? Woof, you're all running down here, falling over each other because you want to be in front of someone. And I've seen it so many times where it starts off the shy, and when you get it, it's great. I'll let you read this. It's very true, I think, for discovering your client. So keep that one in mind because it is true. So I'm going to go through some, and I kind of broke the rules now of slides. I know there's a lot of text in some of the slides. I'm not going to talk to all of them because it's there for your information, because Penny's going to make it available to all of you. But I want to talk to you, so this minimum viable product idea. So I've just got this idea, and I'm going to go talk to someone about it, and I'm not going to really show them what my product is. And that's the trick. You don't go to someone and say, would you like that? Because someone likes you, say, oh yeah, I love it, it's great, beautiful. If you make it yellow, it's even better. Okay, that's easy, got it. That's what I'm going to do. But it's not really honest feedback yet because you haven't found out what the problem is. And minimum dollars. Unfortunately, we run into entrepreneurs, people starting their store. We've had a lady in the West Side who started a store on the web, and her web page paid $20,000 for this thing. And unfortunately, she couldn't order product through her own web page. So operationally, it caused her a lot of trouble. And so she was working in the store during the day. Then night time, she's doing all these orders on the phone and sending product directly to customers. Product was coming to her. She was splitting it apart in boxes, reset. It was a mess. When we worked with some website developers, unfortunately, we had to completely scrap it because it wasn't set up properly. No analytics in the background. She wanted to eventually sell products to Quebec. There was no opportunity to convert it to French, which can cost a lot of money if you don't do it properly up front. So this whole idea of minimum dollars, all you want to do is put your idea on paper and then talk to people about it. So spend as little as possible in that stage. And then we're going to talk in a minute about the feedback and how to do some of this because there's some tips for you. And of course, sometimes you do go out there and the product's already there. Dang it. Oh, but wait a minute. Maybe if I change this, because that was going to be my iteration 2, and maybe if I change that, I could apply for another market. So it's good to talk those ideas through. So validation is, to me, when we work with all these clients over the years, at that time, 430 clients, probably 95% of them didn't do this, A, didn't even want to do it, B, and then when they did, they just made it up as they went along. But that 5% who did it, bingo, they got it. And they run a wide range of businesses, and quite a number of them in retail type businesses, in town, Southern Alberta actually. So some tips. Fundamentally, startup is temporary organization. You can't be perpetually startup, right? There's going to be a point where when you get up that curve, yeah, you're going to have to kind of, you're not all in, but there's a point where you have got to the market and try it out. See, people are going to buy this thing. But if you've done your validation properly, you get a reasonably good feeling you're almost there. You're not totally there, you're almost there. A couple of websites there that are good. Talking to prospects, and this is that interviewing. We've had people, we had a lady who is selling a product to nightclubs in Southern Alberta. And she went out and interviewed 267 nightclub managers. That's validation. 267. So it's certainly in the dozens, for sure, for your product. When you set up these interviews, and that website gives you some ideas of questions and how to do it. But you always ask questions of things that's already happened, things in the past. What did you feel about that product? Did that product work for you? What do you not like about that product? And this whole notion of, boy, I tried that product, but if only it was like this. I could never find one like that, though. So mentally, you're changing your minimum viable product. You go, okay, that's a good point. I'm going to change that. You know, this idea of, if I like to buy these boots, but if someone could put the zipper in the back instead of the front, I always had that problem. Okay, I'm going to do that. So these little tips that people want to tell you about, you haven't introduced your product yet. You always talk about things that's happened because you're going to invent the thing you want to happen when you come to sell it.
And when you're doing it, and I'm going to keep making that connection back to in the future, you have now just put people in your sales funnel without even knowing it. You have. That lady talked to 267 nightclub owners. You can be guaranteed they will remember her when she comes back X number of months or whatever it is later and said, I listened to you, and now look what I have for you. Because that trust and that authenticity that comes back now through the sales cycle carries all the way back from you listening to them in the beginning. That's pretty good validation, not just on the idea, but the fact that, oh, well, this company really listened to what I wanted. I think maybe I'll give them a chance, right? So you're already putting pieces into your sales funnel as early as before the creation of what you have, whether it's a service or a product or whatever it is. So the one thing I'll say is take it seriously. Show up, and if you're doing it in person, show up professionally. Don't just show up in your grubs and your whatever to ask a few questions. Show up professionally. Represent you and your business the way you would expect to a year from now. Take it as seriously as you would a sales call because that's what it's going to convert into. So that's really important at that stage.
Good point. So I just took a snapshot here of some of the resources in Strategizer. The one that I would point out to you may be of interest is this one here, which is designing crystal clear business model canvases. And have they been exposed to a business model canvas? So Bruce talked about that, so you've heard about that. So this is some of the resources that's within that website. You sign up, make yourself a profile, username, password, and you go in there. This is some of this, and there's pages of it, just one page. Again, you're amassing your knowledge, your portfolio of knowledge in your business. Yeah, you might think, well, that's a lot of work, this stuff. But we're trying to move people to the success zone in their business, rather than just let them just go out there and just fail without want of helping them and trying them for some new ideas.
It's going to be the thing that differentiates your hobby versus your business.
Yeah.
It just is. At the end of the day, that's what's going to be the thing that differentiates it. How serious you take it and how much effort you put in. You can be doing it off the side of your desk. Most do. You can be doing it nighttime and outside a day job. Most people can't quit their day jobs to build their business. But those are the people that are hustling all night long and all weekend long and taking these things seriously because they don't want it to be a hobby. They want it to be a business. And those are the stories that you will hear over and over again. You'll hear those one-offs that this magic success happened. Mm-hmm. Those are the one-offs. Those are the absolute anomalies. And even those stories still don't tell you all their failures. I guarantee you. It's not magic. Most of the time, those stories hit all the other ideas and all the other things that actually didn't take off. There are serial entrepreneurs out there. The guy who, Uber, right? I used to work for a company down in California. We had in Silicon Valley, and I was in a software company. And we talked to the guy. Do you know how many failures he had? But you don't hear about that as much You don't hear about all the things he screwed up and all the problems and partners that went bankrupt and all of those things. You just hear the success story because that's what gets publicized. There was a lot of sleepless nights and eating bread because they had no money for anything else that you don't hear. And those are the stories sometimes that are better to hear because it gives some perspective. When you're slaving away at 2 in the morning, you can remember that they did too. And that's the thing I think to keep in perspective.
And that's a good point on how it leads into getting and retaining those clients. Was there a question?
Just, can you remind them that Bruce was so kind as to give us the Talking to Humans book, and I downloaded it session 1. So that's really relevant to what you
So Penny just mentioned that Bruce had given you the Talking to Humans book, and is it downloaded so they can get it? So, yeah. And it's true, it's very, very true, this idea that you sell to people, certainly those initial sales as your business. So you make contact with those people the more you can earlier, because people do want to help. And it's always good to be able to say, I was one of their first customers. So there's lots of help out there, but do it in a structured way. So I'm going to give you some examples now of companies who did this validation right. And of course, there's some who didn't do it as well. Company, it was actually at Calgary. They developed a way to sterilize patients' skin before operations because the old method was very, very long, costly, and took a lot of time. This person actually went, talked to doctors and nurses as the users, and then about health as the client. Now, for all of these people, it was important, and you should take note of this. There's a difference between a user and the client. Odd times they can be the same. The user uses your stuff, the client buys it. There is, and this hose fabricator had a great idea in agriculture to wind up with very large hoses. They went out and talked to growers and farmers out there and found out that, well, you know, if someone, the idea was, well, I can make it up myself and crank it. This thing weighs like 2 tons. Or if I could put it in my power takeoff in the tractor, but then it's awkward because it has to be, well, maybe if I could connect it to hydraulic hoses, then I could have it remote. Okay, minimum viable product is, I'm going to design this with hydraulics to be remotely operated. And they're selling it quite successfully now. Guy had, I'm going to talk about the guy with the fire hose stuff, but wasn't successful, but he had an idea of a new fire hose. And it was going to be flexible, lightweight, very easy to roll up, and obviously seen firemen rolling up that big heavy hose that they have. So he took it to people he knew in the fire department, the fire houses and fire, and they talked to the firemen and fire ladies, and they loved it. It's great, it's lightweight, it's fantastic, and roll it up and carry it around until it goes to the client, who is the people in the towns and the cities who buy these hoses, and they say, no way, because that hose is almost 5 times the cost of a regular hose. So the user may have liked it, but the client's not going to buy it. So he has to work on ways to bring the cost down because he knows it's going to work, just the cost is too high.
So I think, and just another example, because we had it come up actually just a little while ago. So somebody created something for to go into the rooms in senior homes. So you know, I've got an elderly parent, and I want to put this in their home, and it's going to help me, you know, make sure they're okay. They went around and did all their validation in senior homes and talked to all of the people in the homes and all of that kind of stuff. They didn't once talk to the children of those people. And it's not going to be those people in the homes buying the product. It's going to be the children of the people buying the product. So that's why I just want to really push that point home. Make sure when you're doing your validation, you're validating with the right people. Now, don't get me wrong. The validation with the people in the seniors home was good for usability. And they confirmed their design and all of those pieces. But they didn't confirm the buyer. So make sure you're covering both bases. And you really got to think it through when you're strategizing how you're going to go and approach that validation piece. Make sure you're covering both.
That's right. Good point. Had an accountant who actually started a firm with new tools, financial tools for small businesses, because You know, like many of us, when we go and meet our accountant, it's usually in their tax time. You don't like to even talk to them. You hate the whole process because you're going to pay taxes. And he actually went out and talked to clients and made it not only that it was easier, but they could follow through their payables month by month by month. So it made them more financially smarter in running their business. This idea of timing competitive races, it was actually a person who was in the Olympics 3 or 4 Olympics ago. And as you know, when they're running some of these races, now they're timed to the 100th of a second. And he found out that there was 500 competitive races run in North America each year. So he didn't go to all of them. He went to most in Western Canada, Spokane, some Spokane, Washington, Idaho, and they asked them about ideas and how they could better time these races. He came up with a chip that actually each racer wears, and the system times when they actually exactly the time they leave the start line and exactly the time they cross the finish line. No one standing with stopwatches, pictures of whose nose stuck over the line. It's all done to the thousandths of a second. And he's doing very, very well. There was, again, a company that was doing some treatment, home treatment courses for people at home, mainly elderly. Very similar to Lindsay's story. I want to be able to go and bring the services to people at home. And of course, the elderly, they thought it was a good idea. But there's all sorts of issues with security, bonding, and the fact that the user was the elderly person at home. The client was the younger person in the family who were actually going to hire you to do that and pay you. And they did it quite well. So they switched and actually talked to the families of these seniors to make it work. Then there were some people, not too far outside the left page, who developed an automated soil treatment process. It's in its second stage of its testing. They'll be trying it with growers this year, but some great feedback from a variety of pulse growers, actually going out and talking to them and showing them examples of what they had done in the past. So validation can be on a wide range of all businesses. And it's just how you set up your questions to ask those things of things that's happened, and operationally to build up your idea of how I'm going to get and retain these clients. Sometimes it doesn't work so good. I had a lady making dresses, fabrics. I remember it was October one year, and that applies to others. It's not in the list here, but there's another list where my business plan says that at the start of next year, I'm going to make $1 million selling dresses. I'm going to make beautiful dresses, very, very nice. So this was October. So I said to her, okay, so in the next 8 weeks, 10 weeks, you're going to start selling dresses at the rate of $90,000 a month. Do the math, $1 million a year. How are you going to do that? 12 weeks. What validation have you done? Who wants it? Who's actually going to buy it? Stop the business plan. Stop. Don't put any money in making any dresses yet, and let's switch. There's a gentleman who wanted to develop an idea for putting out fires using steam. Actually, technically, quite sound idea. And so that's good. And unfortunately, because you can imagine, I go to towns and villages and I've already bought fire trucks. I got hydrants around on the streets. I got water lines. I'm using water because all my big fire trucks use water. He went out and bought a used fire truck, bought a steam boiler to put in the back. $100,000 he put in this thing. Person with camping gear and outdoor type gear, put it on his website. Great. Look up on Amazon, maybe not exactly the same. Looks very similar. $200, $49.95. So not much sales, whole bunch of sales, right? We'll talk about Amazon in a minute. So you have to know your competition, especially website designs. I'm going to develop websites, and I'm going to get it so that people can just come to me and develop the website, and I'm going to make it in all different languages until people start to realize, well, I can go to Singapore and get it done for $50, and you're going to charge me 5,000. And another person had a gardening device that, again, its idea wasn't too bad, but he was thinking there's no competition out there for what I made. There's just nothing. But there's a couple of things out there very similar. So that's your competition, but you wouldn't recognize there was competition. Hasn't had any sales yet after close to 7 years. So, but these, and nearly every case here, these folks unfortunately have been out and spent thousands of dollars on designing, developing something without first going and ask someone if they want to buy it. We talked about Uber. There's all sorts of stories about Uber, right? Because really, I want a safe ride, to pay it without cash. I want to get from A to B. I want to see who my driver is. Great idea. You know, one of the stories was there was two guys in the middle of Paris in a cold night. If you ever been to Paris in the nighttime, it's hard to get a taxi. At the best of times, they're thinking, wouldn't it be great if you could just order one on your phone? They come here, we pay them in francs because I don't have any French money. So why can we do that? Airbnb is another one. You know, the very idea of renting your room out to strangers, that kind of came from their idea of going out to the marketplace and see what was available. Talk about Amazon. My son-in-law, who lives in Toronto, he's actually has a business in one of these fulfillment centers, they call them that, for Amazon. They went down to visit the executives of Amazon a few months ago, and they had their validation nailed as a company that size. And they said to them, you know, our clients have two problems. We talk about clients and the problems, solving the problems. Our clients have two problems. How quick do I get it? How can I return it? That's it. So when you think about that and all the mechanisms and all the stuff that has to happen in the background to make that happen, that you don't care about that, right? As a user, you don't care. I want to buy it cheap or low cost. I don't want to pay it, send it back if I don't want it. So make it happen. So they have these fulfillments. There's a massive amount of work that they do to do that. But you're not buying that. You're not buying their systems. You're not buying their fulfillment centers. All you do is, I have a desire. I have a need. I have a pain. That is, I don't get it. I don't send it back. And that impressed me. That company and executives of a company like that nailed it in just 2 points. So there you go. It can happen. So sales calls and kind of aftercare, cold calls, never liked them. I was in businesses, plant manager in a number of companies in town, never liked the cold calls. I'm busy, you're busy, everybody's busy, get a call from someone, down goes the phone. I deal with people. I buy from people. So it's almost best to try and make that face-to-face contact. Whether it be a trade show, whether it be some way to make contact with that potential customer, try and do it that way rather than cold calls. You could argue my website could be part of that. Soft touch, kind of high-tech, high-touch stuff. Right?
Part of that is going to come through validation though, because what you need to find out from your potential customers is, how do they want to buy your product? Do they want to talk to you? A lot of people do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want that. Do they want that? The guys who are buying from Amazon don't want to see anyone. In fact, I order from Amazon so I don't have to talk to somebody sometimes,
exactly.
right? So that's part of the validation stage. Why and how are they going to buy your product? So you've got to validate a little bit in that sales piece about that. I think that at Amazon's the great idea. They didn't get hung up on the details. They got hung up on what was the most important detail. It wasn't that this person really, really, really wanted to buy a blender and couldn't find it online cheap. It wasn't about the blender. It was the fact they couldn't find something online cheap that they could return fast, right? So again, in your validation, watch for the layers of information that's coming out. That will really help you flesh out exactly what's the most important to those customers that you're talking to.
And that value add, right? So if I have a storefront, I have a store, I have a competitor down the street, same product, similar idea. What sets me apart? What makes me different? We'll talk about that later. But that's that whole, the package of the products and services that you're selling, not just the product. Some cases it is. You buy it here, so I'm cheaper. Okay, I get it here quicker, that's it, done deal. But then you got to know the customer and set up your systems to fulfill that pain.
Let me just ask a question, just because I'm curious.
Sure.
So for everybody in the room, and I know I can't ask the people on the phone, but for everybody in the room, who in here has their business idea based on selling a product, an actual thing somebody can hold? Just curious. Just looking more for percentages. Now, what about a service?
Right.
Okay, lots of services. Okay. And then how many of these are software or app-based? Okay. The reason I'm asking that question also is because as we talk through some of these examples, especially as we talk about operations and sales and get a little more into detail for the next little bit, I want to make sure we're also talking to you guys about what you're actually doing, because it does vary depending on what you're selling, how you're selling, operationally, even for sales, those things can vary. So.
Yeah, that helps in building a network, particularly if you're in the service business, because you're the service. And when someone sees what you do, that's a great advertisement for your business. If you're a lawn care person and the lawn work you do is pretty bad, people look at it and go, I'm not going to hire that guy, right?
And you are always on. Don't
Yeah.
kid yourself that you're not.
Right.
And especially in a center like Lethbridge, Southern Alberta, smaller towns, people talk, people see you, right? You might be there doing something with your service and then 2 days later, you're going to see you in Safeway. It's just going to happen.
Right.
So especially if it's your business and your face is related to the business, you're out there representing that, don't kid yourself that you're always on. And in this day and age with social media and people posting and pictures and all of those kinds of things, there can be a lot of damage done if you're not taking care of keeping that in the back of your mind. And I know it's just that extra effort that you still have to think about, and usually you're like, no, I am just grocery shopping. Leave me alone. This is not my business. But the problem is, it is going to be because that's what they know you as. They don't know you as the person who just wants to run out and buy their 2 kids apples because they had a meltdown because they didn't have apples at home. They do know you as the service provider that they just talked to 2 days ago. So that's the one thing too, and this goes right into sales, especially again, early stage. Even if you get to the point of hiring a salesperson, even if you have a sales team, as a business owner, you are always still going to be a sales point of your business. You just are. So always keep that in mind, and what you're personifying out when you're walking out on the street, when you're doing different things, you are always representing not just your own personal self, but the business you represent as well.
Yeah, and word of mouth is a big part of it. This idea of trade shows. I'll give you an example. We had some people in the university, business. They were going to go down to a trade show in California, San Francisco, and meet some people at this trade show. I said to them, so what's your plans to network and meet people? It's a large trade show, like thousands of people at this thing. Well, we're just going to go down, walk around the booths and can introduce ourselves and just see what's there. I said, don't bother going. If that's all you're going to do, don't bother going. Because you're not making meaningful connections that people will remember you by. So what we did, we took one whole afternoon. We went through all the delegates, because if you register for a lot of these trade shows, you can get the list of delegates. So we went through them, looked at all of them. And we said, okay, you're going to be there a couple of days. Let's pick the top 10 people you want to meet. Thousands of people. What's the top 10 people you really, really want to meet? List them down. So it's a strategy. Don't meet these people first thing in the morning. Just getting there, getting set up. They haven't got their coffee yet. And if you're like me and you didn't have your coffee, don't talk to us. Certainly don't talk to them near the end of the day, because you've been standing at these trade shows all day. It's pretty tiring if you've been there for 8 hours. So there's a sweet spot. Sometimes it's at mid-morning, sometimes it's at mid-afternoon. You walk around and watch these people. Who's there? Who's coming to the booth? And when you get that moment, you go in and you do the introduction, you talk about your product, and then you make that connection. Someone you really need to talk to, the strategy before you go there, we need to take this person to dinner that night. Or we're going to take that person for a coffee at lunchtime. Or we're going to take them for lunch. After that, the social that evening, we're going to take them for some drinks after the little 1 hour social thing, because I want to make a contact with this person.
And a memorable contact.
A memorable
And that's the
one,
most
right.
important thing. If you walk by and drop your business card, it's going to be one of 100 that they're going to throw in some box and chuck when they get home. It's just what
They
happens
just
at
chuck it.
trade shows and conferences and conventions and things like that. They meet hundreds of people, especially the big ones. Even the small ones, they're still going to meet a ton of people. They're not going to remember a 2-minute meeting when you handed them your business card or gave them your website or something like that. They're going to have a whole bunch of those. It has to be a memorable connection. But that's why Bill's talking about prioritizing. You can't afford to take 40 people out for dinner. You can't afford to be doing that with everybody there. You're not going to have the time. So you do have to strategize, and that's where you're going to get the investment of money. These shows aren't cheap to go to, attend, present at, or anything like that. If you're putting the time in to attend, make sure you have a reason to go, and make sure you're well thought out in your strategy of who you want to spend time with and why. Because that's where you're going to get the results afterwards.
Would you contact them in advance?
No, I don't like.
If you wanted to have a separate date?
No, I typically, because a lot of these cases, they're sometimes they're quite flexible, and the date might not be like that night, it might be the next night, it might be the next morning. It's when you make that face-to-face contact, because they don't know you yet, right?
It's different if you have a pre-established relationship.
If you already
I
know
saw
them.
you 6
Yeah.
months ago.
Yeah.
Are you going to
That's
be at
right.
this show? That's
Yeah.
different.
That's
But
right.
if it's cold,
No.
they have no idea who you are.
That's what making that memorable contact is about. Because typically, and I said to them, that evening when you've met this person, that person, you've got to make contact with her, you go to your hotel that evening, email, right to them, hey, great meeting you today, I loved the conversation, perhaps some remote location, if you're ever in Alberta, we're going to meet, the next time the next conference is going to happen, we can meet you then, and maybe we'll set up a meeting to show you some of our products. But you're making that contact, and it's very strategically based and not just by happenstance.
Aftercare is half the battle, and that's why that title's up there. Even on those initial interviews you did way back in the validation stage, if I come up and ask you a bunch of questions, validate my product, and then you never hear from me again, I just lost a potential sale. There's no aftercare, right? But if I take the time to get your opinion and your feedback and get your information, and every once in a while drop you a little line about progress and how things are going and just keep you a little bit interested, that's aftercare. All of that is aftercare. And it needs to be timely.
Oh, yes.
Especially when you're meeting these people in person, it needs to be timely. Don't wait weeks and all of those kinds of things. They'll forget you. They'll forget who you were. Even if they had coffee with you. They'll be like, oh yeah, I had coffee with you. Oh yeah, I had coffee with this one. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. But you know, they won't make the connection right away. It needs to be right away. You want to keep in top of their mind.
Question?
Sorry, how soon did you say, like the next day?
Oh, I like to do it as soon as I get back to the hotel room or the next day, because you want to make sure that, because they're meeting hundreds, and sometimes they're nice to you, they're meeting dozens of people, and you meet them, you think, man, I made that great connection with that person. They love me, they love my idea. And then you kind of wait for a week, and then you don't hear from them, because they're saying, yeah, they like me, but they also like 10 other people.
Yeah.
So you got to make that memorable connection, not in your face, don't bug them too much, but always that memory of okay, you remember me from last night, if you get time today, you can go for a coffee or go for dinner, or you can say, in a month from now, do you mind if I follow up? Maybe send you some product, maybe we could meet you sometime, maybe going distance would be difficult, maybe it's a Skype call.
Or something.
Yeah.
And Bill makes a good point though, don't stalk them.
Yeah.
Just, and you know what, it's an easy line to fall over, I'm gonna say that, right? You're so anxious to connect with this person, you're just so anxious and so happy maybe you made that first connection, but they do not like that. right? I used to go general manager of software company, and I had vendors following me around, and the ones that would respectfully come up and try to make that connection and stuff like that, that was awesome. And follow up, that was great. But the ones that stalked me and were there every time I turned around, and you know, so what'd you think of today's session? Well, what'd you think of the breakfast? Well, did you have the ham? And I was just like, you know what? Give me some space, bud.
Yeah.
Just give me some space. So it's that fine line of finding that connection, making that memorable connection, but don't be so memorable they don't want to talk to you anymore.
Yeah.
There was a question.
Question?
I used to do a lot of trade shows and conferences, and it's good advice to make yourself a contact in your phone with a very good photo of yourself rather than a business card. Offering to send them that because then they have your information justified by saying, you now have my phone number and email, you don't even have to put it in your phone. It's saying, then when you follow up immediately, when it follows up on their phone, it's your face. When you call them or text them, you're automatically there with how you want to be presented with LinkedIn profile, all your different profiles, your website, your email addresses that you want them to have.
Yeah, that's a great idea. There was a vice president of a software company, one of the largest ed tech software providers in North America. Vice president never carried business cards. All he did on the spot every time was make a connection on LinkedIn. Immediately, right there, nothing. He said, oh, and can I get the spelling of your name? I'm gonna connect with you on LinkedIn right now. And immediately, there's a connection made. And he never carried a business card. And that is how he was very active on LinkedIn, and he maintained all his networks and all his connections, both in the business he was in and outside, all through LinkedIn in the moment.
And part of the aftercare question that was posed to us, depending on the business and how kind of intimate your connection is with some of the clients, I've seen many cases where you get to know them, you get to know the families and their birthdays. So nothing wrong, birthday comes up, you send them a little birthday card. Keeps a little connection going there. You don't pester them. You don't send them a birthday card saying, "Oh, by the way, here's my latest sales, and come to the store, and you got to here's the $10 off thing." No, it's just, "Hi Joe, how you doing? Happy birthday."
A lot of sales is relationship selling, and it just is. I had a salesperson, and it depends on what you're selling. I had a salesperson, and when we were selling software, it was long-term buy. So what I mean is, it took one business 12 years to buy our software because it was a big investment. These were not pieces of software you would flip overnight. It took 12 years, but my software manager knew this person, knew their kids, knew what was going on in their life, and every time we were anywhere, they came and sought her out because they liked the connection, they liked the relationship, all of those pieces. And when their current provider jacked up their prices by like 110% on maintenance, their very first call was to her. We didn't have to go to them because she had built that relationship. Now that's a long-term one, but don't downplay what that relationship's gonna bring you.
Yeah.
Word of mouth, especially again, Southern Alberta, smaller communities and things like that, word of mouth is huge. And building up that relationship and fostering that relationship and keeping it alive and active really will play out really well for you.
Yeah. So, again, when you talk about advertising, a lot of people come up and say, "I want to advertise it every which way." Be very selective. Know what your audience is. We call it, you may hear the term customer persona. You have to think about this, whatever your business is, who is the perfect customer for you? Age, gender, location, income, maybe it's their family ties, whatever it may be. That perfect customer to you is, if I can get my product in front of that person, I know they're going to buy it.
And that's an exercise you need to do. Put a name to them.
Yeah.
This is Alice. She's 38. She has 2 kids.
Right.
She works a full-time job. Her husband is a teacher. Da 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 da.
Right.
How are you going to get Alice to buy your product?
Exactly.
Personalize it, because that's going to give you strategy on who you're actually focusing on. And this goes back to my previous comment about know how your people buy.
Yeah.
Don't spend a ton of money on Facebook ads if they're not on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right? But if they're on Facebook all the time and they are the type to click on the ad and go look at it, maybe it is worth investing on a Facebook ad. And make sure you do it right. I've seen a ton of people sink a ton of money into Facebook ads and promotion on Instagram and all of those things. And you know what? They have no call to action. So that's great. I saw this ad go through Facebook and that was really cool, but there is no call to action on there. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this ad, and nothing happens and they get no return. And there is a ton of information online, and there are a ton of people out there who specialize in this kind of thing. Some of it's expensive, some of it's not. But, and I know that there was a big talk on social media and you guys want more and more on social media, but this is what I mean about invest wisely. They'll take you through, if you get the right person, they'll take you through how do you find your target audience. Don't just put a Facebook ad out to everyone. Pick your target audience. Is it women? Is it men? Is it an age range? Is it a location, a geography? What is it? So spend wisely, because you need to know who's buying it and how they're buying it. Do that homework first so that you're not wasting your money, especially up front in the early days where you don't have a lot of money to waste.
Perfect.
See if I can get close to the mic and because it's too long of a story.
Okay.
Come around.
I just heard the best thing from someone who worked for a large municipality. And he had finally got enough money in his budget he could do a TV advertisement. He was so excited. He stayed up nights thinking, dreaming how he was going to do it, plan it, made it. He went and taped the program. And then when he went, eventually, when he, it showed up when it was supposed to air, went through the production and everything else, taped the program when it was going to air. He zipped through all the real program to get to his commercial. And he said, then I realized I was doing it in reverse, because everybody else is going to zip through the commercials to get to the real program. It cracked me up, but it was true. He spent all that money and he finally realized it was useless.
I was at a farming conference before Christmas. So Farming Smarter was here, and I was there at the conference, talked to a whole bunch of farmers and that kind of thing. You know what they told me? They still listen to the radio. When they're driving their trucks on the road and out in the fields and everything, the one thing they do is listen to the radio. And I was standing there with about 3 other business guys who all had booths, and all of them went, oh, radio ads. I never even thought of that, because they hadn't had that conversation. They're thinking, oh, radio's in the past, and why would I ever advertise on radio and that kind of thing? They're in the ag business. This is exactly what they're listening to.
People in offices and stuff.
Yep.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
That's it.
I was gonna say delivery people too.
Yeah.
We tend to listen to the radio a lot.
Yep.
But with farmers too, I'm a farm kid.
Yep.
So growing up, that's all you had was the radio.
Exactly.
And the tractor. You're driving around doing.
Exactly.
You have the radio.
Yep.
In the middle of nowhere.
And I can't tell you how many people, especially I'll say some of the newer entries into the ag business, it's not even on their radar to think about radio. They're coming up with sales strategies and putting all this money into all these different things and print ads and stuff, which is awesome. It wasn't even on their radar. And everybody in that room said they would have all heard it if it was on the radio. All of them would have heard it. So it's just, again, it's spend wisely. You really got to know your market and how they're gaining information, how they're going to find you.
The idea of warranties and recalls, obviously, when you have a warranty or recall, an issue that someone's come to you with a complaint, to me, that's a all hands on deck situation. You got to fix it. And the notion of their sales then aftercare. Well, sometimes the aftercare can be driving sales because you're so good at taking care of the customer that more people will look at you as a good place to do business, particularly if you have a service, because your service is you, right? And your reputation hangs on that service. Something went wrong, you got to fix it. Now, there is cases, of course, where blatantly maybe someone's done something that was not very intelligent, but you can't always blame them, right? Because you have to go back and say, well, I'm going to fix it because my reputation, which is my future sales, is depending on me covering this warranty and making sure it's done right. Because that idea of word of mouth and sales goes really, really fast. So does bad news. So make sure you cover these warranties and be reasonable when you're talking to clients, because their expectations may be here and reality is here. But how do you close that gap without alienating the clients? It takes a lot of face time sometimes.
And I know, coming into the session, I know we thought, okay, well, I'm going to learn about sales today. I'm going to learn about operations. It's really mixed. Everything's intermingled. You see, or are they jumping around? It's because it's all mixed together. So when it comes to customer service, that's part of your operations. And the one thing I'll say, and I want everybody to write this down, do not do a business plan without thought about how you're going to take care of the customer after you sell the product or service. I see this over and over again. Well, here's how I'm going to create it. Here's how I'm going to design and develop it. Here's how I'm going to keep it up and going. And then everybody forgets what happens after somebody buys it. So the one thing I tell everybody right out of the gate, the minute you sell one thing, your first sale, I don't care if it's software, a product, a service, you are immediately obligated to take care of it. You are immediately obligated to take care of that customer. And an FAQ or whatever you want to put up on your website is not enough.
No.
They need an ability to come back to you if something's not okay. You have to have that ability for them to do that. Especially in the early stages, part of your growth is going to depend on your responsiveness. Expect that you are going to have complaints. Expect that you're going to have failures. Do not assume that everybody is going to buy and love your service or buy and love your product. It's not going to happen. I'm just telling you right now, it's not going to happen. So you have to have that plan in place on how you're going to deal with that. The other thing too is you can have your policies, your warranties, and all of those things written. But the one thing I'll caution you is take it situation by situation. Again, especially in the early years of your business. One person who's really upset that you don't relent on could go out and cost you 20 other customers. Now, you may have held your ground and no, I'm not giving you your money back, but you may have lost 20 other customers because you did that. Read the situation. You have to read the situation. It doesn't mean given every time or all of those things, and maybe there's creative ways to give them some credit or something like that, but you've got to be really open to that customer service. The minute you sell something and get those first few customers, whether it's your service or your product, they should get white glove treatment. They should be right there as your first early adopters, your highest quality customers, your top priority, because that's where your referenceability is going to come from. Those are the people that you're going to want to go back to for references and putting those testimonials out and things like that. And again, if something goes wrong, if they have, maybe they get a product and it's faulty, or maybe something happens, that's okay. They're not going to give you a bad review online if you are very responsive and replace it and you're caring and you're polite and all of those things. In fact, what's going to happen is they're going to give you a good review and say, well, we had this happen, but they were great and they were responsive. You see it in restaurants all the time. Restaurant opens, first few weeks, they're always rough, right? But if I go to a restaurant in opening weeks and it's a little rough go, the manager's there and they're talking to me and the wait staff is extra nice and I get a free dessert and they know it was kind of rough and they take care of it, I'm not going online right away and writing them a bad review. But if I go and have a miserable experience, I might. So, and again, I'm going to go back to the social media and things like that. It's never been easier, ever, for people to put a bad name out about your business. And it's not on your website and it's not on your Facebook. It's going to be you tagged in tweets and even Instagram posts sometimes. You're going to have somebody going into their community Facebook group and saying, I had a terrible experience with this and this, don't do this, and it's going out to hundreds of people. So you've really got to take care of that and put that in your planning from the beginning. So as you're going through your business plan and as you're going through your initial stages on how you're going to take care of your business, service, product, software, whatever it is, make sure you take into consideration how you're going to take care of customer service, customer care, and even beyond warranties and recalls, how are you going to respond to a question? If I buy a product and I don't know how to use it, do I call someone? Do I email? What do I do? If you have an app, or if I'm using a piece of software and the screen goes dead, what do I do? Who am I going to call? Because who's going to figure out whether that's a problem with me, or is there a bug in the software that you have to take care of? You need somebody and some recourse and some way to be able to figure that out. So make sure all of that goes into your thinking as you're planning things out.
So we're just going to have a break and just a couple of quick points to remember. Sales happened. Marketing is what's going to happen. We're going to talk about the marketing part soon, because don't think that sales and marketing are the same thing. They're not. And we're going to talk about these. And by the way, I'm not going to talk to these slides. They're in the package. They're there for your information. And that's why, I don't want to dwell on a lot of these words. And also this here. is in your package as well. We may hear us talk about the Startup Commons. It's commonly used now in people developing business plans, but it's in your information. So,
I think before we get started, there was a good conversation going on at the break, and I just wanted to invite Stephanie up just to say a few words. We were talking about validation and how to find the right places to find information, and Stephanie had a good little plug for something.
Do I just stand here for the
Yes,
online
yes,
people?
that's
Okay,
perfect.
sounds good. So what we're talking about for validation is when you're doing your market research, if you're going to use gender, such as male and female, you are completely eliminating a part of the LGBTQ2SIA plus group. And if you're going international or selling a product, by doing that, you're eliminating millions of people already from your product. So terminology is really important for that kind of thing. And some people might not always know the best way to phrase things, and you might need help with that. So we do have a couple of organizations here in Lethbridge that could help with that. There's Lethbridge Pride Fest. There's YQRL Society. They can be found on Facebook, both of those groups. And then there's also Outreach. And Outreach is your main education one, but if you just wanted a quick question, on Facebook through Messenger or something, YQRL Society as well as Outreach and Lethbridge Pride Fest would all be able to help you with that.
Right.
Things off with the two boxes.
Yeah,
And generally, it's not gender people are wanting to know, it's actual the sex. So using the proper words and terms are very important.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very good. There's also immigrant groups we often forget about too. So you want to be inclusive. That's a very good point. So we don't want to exclude anyone. The more you include, the better for your feedback. So welcome back. We enjoyed your break. So this idea of knowing your audience, and this is a very good point we just brought up, the audience can be wide and varied, but they certainly can be your ambassadors. So be careful, and as you reach out to that audience, sometimes what you want them to say on your behalf. So when we talk about keeping, growing, and these key objectives, there's three things that I like to focus on. Go for the hearts first, the mind second, and then, and only lastly, the wallets. And there's different ways to do that. So, so why should I pay attention to you in your idea? What grabs me? What gets me when you present your idea to me? What makes yours different? Does your product, your service intrigue me? Is it different than what I can get out there? And it's often a mistake to make yourself be as good as someone else, because sometimes you don't want to be seen to be the best or the worst, right? Because everyone else is bad, this industry is bad, but I'm just a wee bit better than everybody else. So how do you set yourself apart, right? So there's problems, the problems that customers have, this idea of market pull. Why are they going to pull your product and buy it from you? Because, you know, all this advice stuff, all the things you hear from advisors, there's only one group in the world who can tell you your service, your product, your idea is any good. And someone's going to buy it from you. Someone's going to give you money for it. I am all about commercialization. Some people are into social enterprise, doesn't necessarily don't make money, may not make profit, but I'm in the profit business. I'm in the commercialization business. I'm in the business to help people start businesses that make money. So market pull is a big part.
But I've seen people leverage. I've seen people profit driven, but then they run a side thing. So 10% of our profits all go to this charity to bring water in.
That's right.
And there are people that will buy their product because they see that piece. Yes, that's right.
More and more common.
And so, and it is more and more common. And this goes back to the heart thing.
That's right.
And I'm sure most people in this room could identify. You can find something that you bought, a product, a service, or something, where you bought it not because of what it cost, but because of who was doing it or why they were doing it. Maybe it was local, and you want to support local. That's a big one.
That's right.
There's a lot of people buying a lot of stuff because it's local, and they don't mind spending a few extra dollars on it because they want to support local. That's a heart-driven sale. So that's where Bill's coming in, heart first. And you can really get people with that emotional connection into what you're providing if you go after their hearts through your branding and your sales strategies, but you have to weave it through and you have to be authentic.
That's right.
And that's the one
Don't be
important
phony.
thing
Yeah.
I will say. Don't put on something where they can find that you're not being transparent or authentic about what your messaging is. If you're going after their hearts, do it because you truly believe it and you're actually going to be authentic about that messaging and carry it through consistently. Or they'll see through it. And they'll know you're playing them to try to get the sale.
Yeah.
But the heart pull is going to be a really, really big play for what you can get out of your customer base if you can do it right.
That's right. Very good point. So now the whole solution is how do you feel, have you fulfilled the need of that client? So, and that gets to these points. So my need is I want to support a wider range of social endeavors when I buy your product. If I can buy your product and it can install in some way water line to help people in Africa, that's great. But don't show me a picture later that you're handing someone a bottle of water. That's not a water line, right? So, marketing, get these early adopters, the people who want to buy it first. Some people want to buy the best, shiniest thing first. And this idea of the sales funnel we talked about earlier, but I'm going to talk about it in a few minutes. But as owners of the business, and when I talk about, as I did earlier, sales are things that's happened, and marketing is a strategy. Your marketing strategy is always to fill that funnel. And those connections, the people you meet, talk about your business, isn't a way of filling that funnel. Because in this marketing funnel, for every 10 contacts you make, any 10 points of interest for your product, you might get one sale. So keep filling that funnel. And as the owner, and every time you meet, whether it be socially, in your business, in our region particularly, you always want to grab their attention. You'll get better at it the more you do it. You don't want to kind of be in their face. But there's subtle ways you'll find to talk about your business, a new product. Hey, we're just going to launch something new. Hey, we're just going to start. You were just talking about that earlier. They always want to tell you about the next newest thing they've got. So that's always great to do.
Has anyone talked to you about the elevator pitch? Yeah. Okay. So the elevator pitch is, can you tell me what you do in the ride of an elevator? If I get in the elevator with you, and I say, so, what do you do? What's your business? You have an elevator ride to tell me. That's going to be the time you have in a social setting, on the street, in a quick meet and greet, all of those things. You need to work on your elevator pitch. If you can hone in that short a time frame, in a 2-minute window, 2.5-minute window, a 3-minute window, a convincing, I'll call it a story of what you do, why you do it, what do you have, that's what you have to hone over and over again. And you get to a point where you know it so well, it just comes right off, right? And it should seem like that, not scripted, not staged. You want it to come off natural. And because it's your business, it's your own personal investment. It should come off natural. This is your passion. At the end of the day, you wouldn't be doing this and putting all of this time and money and all of these things in if you weren't passionate about it. Because I will tell you, if you're not passionate about it, it's not going to sustain. You have to be driven because this is not easy and it's going to take you a lot of work and a lot of hustle. And if you don't love it, it's going to phase out a little bit. But if you're driven and passionate about it, you can get that elevator pitch and people will feel that. Again, the authenticity coming from that. So little takeaway, extra homework, and I know it's not part of your regular homework, work on an elevator pitch. A 2 to 3 minute way of explaining your business to somebody eloquently, quickly, simply, in a way they would understand, and a way that they would absorb it to make them understand what you're doing and why you're talking to them. Okay, that's your takeaway tonight. Only homework tonight would be that.
There you go. Good point. Because and that's a good point when after reading many hundreds of business plans, I had a person who come to me once with a business plan. It was 147 pages. I told him, if you can get it down to 10, I might read it. He says, I can't do that. So I'm not going to read it. I just won't. When I look at a business plan, first thing that I'm going to look at, as Lindsay's talking about, is, for me, it's the executive summary. 1 page.
What do you do?
And I get it. I get what you do, what you sell, how you sell it, how you're going to make money. Bingo. 1 page. That's it. That's the executive summary. That entices me to read more. Boy, this is a good idea. This is different, right? It's a lawn maker, a lawn maintenance person. Everybody does lawn maintenance. So many of them, oh, hey, wait a minute. This person's doing it a little bit differently. They'll do it at night time, they'll come to your house, they're sustainable, they use green technology. Oh, that's a little bit different. Right, one page. Then I'm going to look at the finances. How do the finances support the business? And yes, we're not going to go from one year making a few $1,000s to making $1 million. It doesn't work like that. I had a guy a couple of years ago sells elevators. Sold one elevator all year. Comes to me in November. Got a new business plan. We're going to sell 60 next year. So I said to him, well, how are you going to, in 8 weeks from now, how are you going to go from the rate of selling one a year to selling one a week? It's not in your business. I don't get it, right? So that the finances have to support that. And then for me, it's marketing, marketing, marketing based on validation. That's the business. And there's some people in the audience who have been to validation sessions and pitch sessions, and they start with the slides that are like 50 minutes long, then they get them to 5 minutes, and then in the very last sessions, they nail it with 2 slides in 30 seconds. And you'll be surprised. The more you do it, you're going to get it. Met a guy some years ago, we worked with him many, many years ago, and his first pitches were, he's really nervous, can't do it, God, all these slides, it was just a mass of slides, it was a mess. So you see him a year later, 2 minutes, and you got it. And he kept telling us, my business was an overnight success, 8 years in the making. He used to make the frame, makes the frames for laptop, the steel frames for laptop computers, and he sold them to a company in Seattle for $108 million US. But he had 7 years of struggling to do that. So keep at it, keep your dream alive. Here's your sales funnel. Every prospect you got in the top, you make it a 1/10 at the bottom. So as the business owner, this is where the marketing strategy is. How do I keep that sales funnel going? When I managed the Pratt & Whitney plant here in Lethbridge, basically when I get into February, March, my planning year was done. I'm looking at, now I would be looking at 2020 to see how can I fill that funnel, because I wasn't a salesperson, but how I could feed the funnel at the capacity of the plant to keep it running 340 days a year. So you're always looking at that. That top of the funnel is your gig.
And you got to be creative about how you fill it. So online businesses. There's a lot of online businesses out there these days. People are building it as just strictly online businesses. So one of the things that a lot of people talk about is their email list. How big is their list? How many people have actually given you their email address so that you can stay in touch with them? A lot of online businesses live and die by their email list because it's their only way of communicating with their clients. Their clients aren't the storefront walk in the door. They're all over North America. They're all over the world. They need a way to stay in touch. And it's not, well, I'm going to send them one email and it's going to be this great email, or I'm going to point them to my blog and they're going to be wowed and they're going to all of a sudden buy my service or do something. It can take 7 or 8 or 12 or 14 touch points before they even start to click on your links and take a look. And again, also in online businesses, there's oversaturation of emails. I've got them. I'm on a million mail lists and I delete half of them. And every once in a while, usually January, I go, okay, let's clean it up. Who am I unsubscribing from and who am I really interested in? And then I go through that cycle and I do a couple cleanups in a year. So you've really got to treat those pieces really carefully and take care of your funnel, because that's how you're building your funnel for those kinds of things. And it works even more than online. If you can get, I've seen people do this at trade shows. Everybody who walks up to their booth, they just take their email address. That's all they do. They just take their email address, because that gives them an immediate way to touch back to all those people that came by their booth. I've seen it a million times. They just get people to write their email address down, and then they send them stuff after. So they don't try to do all of their pitch in the 2 minutes that they're walking by their booth. If you're interested, give me your email address. I'm happy to send you some stuff after. When you're not so busy, you can take a read of it. So there's ways to leverage those kinds of things, but a lot of the big work is going to be in filling that funnel and keeping that funnel full, because you're going to have to baby it all the way through.
Yeah, don't let that go, because the minute that stalls, then that one person is not there at the bottom, right? So always look over the horizon. When's my next opportunity? When can I start getting that funnel filled again? How many more can I put there? And that's the strategy around marketing, because marketing just doesn't happen. You have a strategy around it, and sometimes it's built around purpose. I'm going to go, so part of my business plan is I'm going to go to that trade show in June because that's the one I want to go to. I'm not going to go to 10, I'm going to go to the one, but boy, I'm going to be there with a purpose. And I'm going to fill that funnel afterwards. So that's great. No wrong with that.
A big play is stamina. You might have a big launch and you get a ton of interest, and then right after that, things die down, and then it's crickets for weeks and months. And the reason I say stamina is a lot of people stop. A lot of people say, well, that's it. I haven't heard from anybody. Nobody's interested. It's been 4 weeks. It's been 6 weeks. It's been 4 months. I'm done. Stamina of keeping going, like the 8-year story and that kind of thing, it isn't usually an overnight success. And there is a lot of hustle to it. And there is a lot of extra work. And if something's not working, then you got to figure out a different way. Okay, my launch was successful. Well, how do I follow up with something exciting? What do I have to do next? Okay, that didn't work. Well, let's try a different strategy. And it's constantly being creative and pivoting and figuring out a way. But that's the stamina. You have to keep going at it. And so I know we don't talk about this a lot, but have a good support system. And I'm just going to say that out loud. Have a good support system around you, because the support system is what's going to get you through those cricket times, right? Those times when nobody's calling, and you have no idea what's going to happen, and you don't know when the next dollar's coming through, and you're almost ready to give up. You've got to have some kind of support system. It can be friends and family. It can be business advisors. It can be a multitude of a bunch of different people. It can just be the friend that you text and go, okay, tell me not to quit. Just tell me, and then I'm fine. One person, right? But find that person, find that group, right? People call it their tribe. They call it whatever. There are a ton of online groups. There are tons. We were talking at the break. There's the small business Facebook group for Lethbridge. That small business group on Facebook, there's like, I don't even know how many now, 1,200 people on it, maybe more. There's a lot on that. It's not for promotion. You don't promote your business. It's a support group. That group is to support small businesses in Lethbridge. So, you know, I'm having a rough week, and I go on that Facebook group and I'm like, has anybody had a problem with this? And all of a sudden, I get 60 responses back from all these people and all different ideas and stuff like that. Find those groups, because they will get you through some of those tough sales times and some of those really tough times in early stages. And like I said, you need the support system. We don't talk about it enough. We come and do these sessions and we give you tips and tricks and tools and all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, build up that support system. If you don't have it in friends and family, go find it. Go online and find those groups. Find who you need, because you're going to need them. Don't think you're not. You're going to need that help.
Yeah, it can be a lonely place being an entrepreneur, that's for sure. And as Lindsay was just mentioned, this is part of that funnel. You get the early adopters, right? These folks up here could be friends and family, those people who have maybe tried your product. So that's a small percentage, up to 15% of those early adopters, the people who want the latest and nicest thing, the nice looking stuff that comes onto the marketplace. But you really want to be in the green zone and getting into those, the earlier majority, this is 35% of the market. And you do that and you bridge that cavern. Some people call it the valley of death, because that's what it can seem like, because your money's going out and there's no money coming in, and it is very stressful. But you really want to do that through this validation and marketing strategy that you think out beforehand. Is it going to cover everything? Nope. It can cover a lot of the what ifs. What if this doesn't happen? Why, if I don't get this license to sell my marijuana in my store, well, maybe that's going to delay me so many months. Well, how do I go over that? Is there other products I can sell that's into that marketplace? So You know, it's going to interrupt you for sure, but a strategy will help you and hopefully reduce those times when there's gloom and you're trying to panic a little bit. So this will help. So again, in the mind, these objectives is how you position yourself, how you convince these potential clients that are buying your product. But it's really built around this idea of validation. Now again, the validation is, how do I make it something that people will buy consistently because I'm resolving a problem that they have. And again, if you go back to the Amazon problems they're solving, it's just those two. They put the mechanisms in place to make it work, but that's what it is to them. And they can resolve that easier than anyone else. You're going to go there because I can find my products there quicker. I can buy it and just have it. So this idea, my mind is built around how can I connect with someone who's going to consistently buy my product. So again, going back to the competition, and all of you who think my service is so much better, my product is so much better, my idea is so much better, my app is so much better than anything else out there. No one else has that, what I have today. You just can't find it out there. It's just not available. I would want you to add just this one word, and that's today. They don't have it today. They have it tomorrow. So don't believe that there's no competition out there, or they're not going to catch up with you and catch up with you really fast, particularly if there's money to be made.
And especially in software and apps. I just have to say that out loud, right? I cannot tell you how many people come in, got a brand new app, it's not there. Maybe it's not. In 3 weeks, there might be 4 of them. It's just that fast. It just is. I had a company come in, they're building software for a certain industry. I won't say what it is. They were absolutely certain it was brand new. It was, based on any searches or anything like that. What they didn't know, and what I actually couldn't tell them, is that another TDA, one of my counterparts, in another city in the province, had a client building the same thing. They didn't know each other existed because they weren't live. They weren't out in public, either one of them. They had both come up with the idea. They were both from the same industry. There might have been slight variances. And ultimately, it was coming down to who's going to hit market first. What's going to happen, right? So today is the most important word there, right? There is going to be somebody on your heels, again, especially in software and apps, but in everything, but especially in software and apps. If you're building an online business, if it's an app or a piece of software, somebody is going to be right on your heels for it. So you're going to have to really prioritize, and I'm going to take it all the way back to one of the very first comments Bill made. Figure out what's most important immediately in the first year. When Bill talked about carve out your quarters and what, where do I want to be at the end of December? Prioritize. How do I get to market and sell my minimum product the fastest? How do I get $1 in the door? And that's what should drive what activities you prioritize in those quarterly chunks. Don't work on a 3-year strategy plan, a 5-year strategy plan, 12 to 18 months. That's what you should be looking at. Because if you can get through 12 to 18 months, then you can get to 24 months, and then you can go on from there. But in those early stages, if you really want to, and I used to do strategic planning for big companies. Big companies, sure. We talk about 5 years and 3 years and that kind of thing. When I did strat planning for small companies, 24 months was the max, and I would not let them talk beyond it. And almost every time it was a 12 to 18 month plan, all by 3-month chunks. And it all came down to priorities. 3 to 5 activities per quarter. You will not be able to handle more. 3 to 5 major activities to move your business forward. If the activity is not moving your business forward, it's not a priority. Leave it alone. Don't get caught in that analysis paralysis and I don't know what to do and that kind of thing. If it's not going to move your business forward, it's not that important in that time. So you really have to drill down to the nuts and bolts of what's important. If it's 3 things in the next 3 months, awesome. Check them off and move on to your next 3 months. But you've got to narrow it down, and that's where you're going to see some traction. And so by the time you get to December of this year, you are going to see some traction, right? But if you look at it from the big picture, it's going to be overwhelming and you are going to hit that paralysis and you're not going to know what to do. So try to narrow it down as much as possible.
That's when we said earlier that a startup is a temporary organization. You cannot be in perpetual startup mode. There has to be a time when you break out and just go out and do it. Based on a plan, but go out and do it. And there's a very good points that Lindsay's making. You can have, I want to do 20 things in the next quarter. Huh? Tell me the one or two or three top things you need to get done. Not the things you like to do, the things you need to get done, and that's what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. And then the next quarter, that's when you're going to do that stuff. Because otherwise you can get overwhelmed. I've got a 2-year, a 5-year plan. I don't know what to do first. It's too much. I have to borrow money. No. What you're going to do between now and the end of March. That's your first quarter. That's it. Now, you got your goal. Don't lose sight of that. So, and this incremental increase is getting me towards it. March to June. Hey, I'm feeling pretty good about my plan because I'm in control of it. I'm driving the plan. It's not driving me. I can now see some clarity of where I want to go. Sometimes I have to shift. Sometimes I have to move a little bit. But your plan becomes your purpose, and your purpose is the plan, and on it goes.
And I know this is getting off a little topic of where we are, but I think this is really important. It's so easy to get caught in the weeds because that's where you are. Your head's down in the weeds every day. You have to look up outside the weeds and take a look around and see where you're at. That planning is important. You know, it sounds corny, but I say it all the time. You have to work as much on your business as in your business, right? You are the leader. You are the business owner. You have to work on the business and how to move the business forward, or it's not going to go anywhere. It won't matter if you have an awesome product or a great service or an idea or whatever it is. If you're not doing those little things to move it forward, it just isn't going to go anywhere. And then at the end of the year, you aren't going to have anything to show for it. So you've got to get that planning in place and take the time. So the one thing I will say is block a day. I don't care if you go to a coffee shop. I don't care what you do. Find the time to block the time to do some planning. Do it at the beginning of a quarter and the end of a quarter. Do it at the beginning, figure out what your top 3 things are, and then at the end, block yourself some me time a day. This is my quarterly review, doing it with myself. What did I do? Did I get these 3 things done? Now what does my next 3 months look like? And take the time to actually do it. You would do it if you were in a big company. So why wouldn't you do it if it's your smaller company? You would take the time to plan it out because that's how it's going to be. And I know we get busy. And again, I know a lot of you are going to be like, well, I have a job and I have kids and I'm doing all of this stuff at the time. You're going to have to make the time. Get a busy babysitter for 2 hours and go to Tim Hortons if it takes that, right? Or the kids go to bed. Don't go on Facebook. Don't turn on the TV. Sit down in a room in quiet by yourself, just maybe with your laptop, and figure it out. But you've got to make the effort to carve the time out because you really are going to get some rewards out of that if you do that.
Great, very good. No, that's good. Of course, ask yourself the question, why would I pick you? Why would I pick you over the competition? What sets you apart? Is that your service is better? The service can be tailored to your schedule. My store provides a variety of products, not just one set of products. The app that I have is more flexible in its applications and how it's going to provide a better experience for you. So I'm better than the competition for these reasons. So you don't want to be just as good as, you want to be better than. Sometimes it's just a little bit, sometimes it's a lot.
And the alternatives, like indirect. I'm not sure everybody understands direct competition and indirect competition.
Yeah, because and quite often that happens. Your direct competition could be people selling products like yours. And the indirect could be someone who's selling groups of products, maybe they're online, and you can just buy these as part of another package. But because if you ignore that, then you're ignoring another competitor that is just indirect to you, and maybe not in your same industry. So, yeah, and you see that in a lot of companies now where you go into a pharmacy now and they're selling clothes, right? Or you go into a camping store and they're selling all sorts of food products in there because you can use that in your camping. Okay. But you see how they're widening their audience to gain their minds to sell more products. This customer experience, the follow-up, the warranty is so important, particularly when you consider that word of mouth can be 80% of your marketing. So your warranty is the trusted people putting you when they buy your product. So, and as Lindsay mentioned, you have to budget some of this stuff because it will happen. The product's not going to be perfect. You'll be amazed what some people do when they get their hands on some products. You think, how did they hurt? How did they damage it? How did they break it like that? It's unbreakable. Oh, no. They found a way to break it. So it will happen. Of course, retention is your reputation. And that's what can sell the product, your reputation. And that's you as that individual.
And retention is very important when you don't have a big customer base.
Yeah.
If I have 10,000 customers, losing 10 is not going to hurt me. If I have 100 customers, losing 10 is a tenth of my business. That is going to hurt.
It's a big.
So retention is a really big deal. So I know we talked about customer service. We talked about the aftercare right after the sale. Don't forget about the continuation, right? If you have a service or you have a product that they're continuing to use, don't forget about the continual touch base, the continual care. Make sure you're present and make sure they see you as a present provider. That's important in that aftercare.
Yeah, good. And of course, then there's a wallet. How do they make the buying decision? What is it that makes them give you money for that service? And there's many aspects of that. There's the need and the want. I really would want this new thing. I'd like to get a new car, but my wife has an opinion about that. So there's a need and there's a want. I'd like to have it and I want to have it, but I don't really need to have it. And there's a fine line between knowing which is which. And how do you resolve the customer's pain? And this is something that you'll hear a lot of when you go to some other sessions that we're going to talk about in a minute. But that idea of how do I relieve someone's pain? Something that you've had and you've bought in the past that I will never buy that product again because it was so bad, the service was bad. Everybody in that industry is lousy, they have lousy service, but I'm different. How are you different? What are you going to provide me that helps me do what I want to do, resolves my pain, makes my life better? So think about that. It's not just
make sure you know what problem you're solving. You see a lot of companies that walk around, they have this great idea, and they're looking for a problem to solve with it, right? It should be the opposite. You should know what problem you're solving with what you've come up with, right? That is part of your validation stage, and it needs to carry all the way through to the purchase, right? Figuring out that solution. You want to solve it. It could be feeding a desire. It could be fixing a need. It could be many different things. But you have to know clearly what are you solving.
The Amazon model is an ideal. That's why it got me when, right from an executive of a company, they got it, right? The problem is, how quick can I get it? How can I send it back?
Kenny Jones came to talk to us. Of course, he explained the customer's need was time and accuracy for his laser thing. That's a really good example.
Very
for lines too.
Yeah, and sometimes it's very, very hard. In the world of Pratt Whitney and jet engines and stuff, the customer doesn't care how much work you put in checking something and making it perfect. They want that engine that day for that aircraft. That's it. I don't care what you do to get it there. The deal is you build that engine, not any engine, that engine, number 2, goes in the aircraft number 2 on Tuesday morning. And that's the deal. What you do to get it there, that's what I'm buying.
And same thing with safety.
Yeah.
They're just going to assume you do that.
Oh, that's
right. That's an assumption. The only time you're going to have an issue with it is if something goes wrong.
That's right.
Right? They're not going to be sitting there, well, did you do this? Well, did you do this? Well, did you do this?
An assumption.
No, that's not why they're going to buy it. They're going to assume you took care of that. Because otherwise, why are you in business? Right?
Could you tell your story about walking down the aisles, however often they did the
Yeah.
inspections?
In Pratt & Whitney, every thing I did when every Wednesday morning, everyone in the plant, janitors, security guards, plant manager, office staff, we all went and started at one end of the plant. Go to Plant Whitney's plant on the north side there. One end of the plant, shut everything down. We had little red buckets. And we everyone walked the plant, and we picked up every piece of lint, dust, wire, because we locked a lot of the bolts by little lock wires. Everything that was loose from 6 feet down, put it in the bucket, put it in a white piece of paper, took a picture, posted it. A little piece of wire sitting on an engine that's spinning at 60,000 RPMs in a test cell blows up and just explode that engine. And an engine that's $500,000 because of a little piece of wire. We did that every Wednesday. Customer, he didn't care. We care. Should be a clean plant. That's the kind of things we did to make sure that that safety was there all the time. And you can imagine in a business like that, where you have a product that has to be 100% perfect, 100% of the time for every engine. It's a massive amount of work. But that's the kind of things we have to do. But the customer ended up trusting you because they ended up knowing that every time they bought that engine, it worked. So whatever your product is, they can buy it every time and they know it works, and you're going to back it, then that buys you a lot of credibility. But if you go back and say, well, I don't know why that failed, then well, you must have done something wrong. It's your fault. Credibility is gone. So you've taken all this time to build up this credibility, and boom, down she goes. Because of that one customer that goes on Facebook, goes on Twitter, that trashes your company. And that's bad. So you have to be on your game all the time, right? The package sometimes that you provide in your business. So many times people say, I provide this product or this service. I have this store. But sometimes it's the other things. It's part of the deal, part of the package. So I come to your store, I talk to you, I buy your app, and I get a little bit more for my money. That's just a better deal for me. So the package I can buy from you is the deal, not just the product. So think about that. Sometimes you have some spin-off products. Sometimes you can partner with other organizations, and you deal in a situation where, you know, if we could package this a little different, maybe we could sell more to this marketplace. So it opens up other markets. It helps you fill your funnel.
It could be the way you do customer service.
Yeah.
It could be the fact that you actually answer your phone.
Yes.
I've seen that with
Yeah.
customers, right? I've seen that in software. Well, I get a real person when I call for help. I like that. I like the personal touch. That's why I'm staying with them. It could be how you perform those kinds of things. Maybe you are designing software and you actually install it for them instead of making them do it themselves. That alone could set you apart. Something like that is that value add that does differentiate you as the seller in the marketplace.
We always said when, as advisors, we'd never give out a 1-800 number because you want to talk to a real person. You want to talk to a real advisor. So whenever we do our referrals, we want to make sure that person's following up because we owe it to people like yourself as clients that we have that touch point, and the value we add is the package. The package is how we deal with people in our region. That's the package we provide, right? So you're not dealing with one advisor, you're dealing with groups of advisors. So we had to think of how we package our products, which is advisory services, which you pay for in your taxes, by the way.
We say it's free, but it's $8.30.
Yeah, just remember, I'm just going to go through this quickly. It's not what you say, the feedback you get, right? Be honest with yourself. This is out here for information. Very quickly, it talks about Rinsa. It's all in the package. I'm not going to go through that.
But make sure and reach out. And I'm just going to say that, right? So now that you've heard about Rinsa, the best kept secret, and all of these organizations and institutions working together, and all these free services and resources, connectivity, that kind of thing, make sure you reach out and take advantage of it right? We're here, there's lots of people here, but we can only help you if you take the first step to reach out.
We can imagine what you want, right? Here's some of the advisors that we have right now. These are all business development advisors. Then there's Lindsay. She's on her own, but she's the one, right? Most of these advisors, they're only going to be with us until the end of actually next month and really into March, because the program, this part of the program is closing down. The funding is getting closed down. Some of us will be around, myself, this lady here, Lindsay, will be there.
Leslie.
Sorry, Leslie and Lindsay will still be there. So we'll still have some longevity into probably April, and then Lindsay will be.
And then I'm here for the duration, so it'll just be me.
So to connect to those people, this is the person, Leslie Warren. And I'm going to ask you to take this down. This is some of the events that's coming up. This as CEC is happening, and after CEC, we have a number of events coming up. You probably heard about the Business Model Canvas. There's a session, another session comes, an evening session coming up that Bruce Thurston is going to do. And next month, almost next month, I think we're in February already. It's going to be in March. We have a person coming to town who's an excellent salesman. His name is Craig Elias. He has a book called Shift Marketing, and he is very good at sales. He's coming down for 2 half days, the afternoon of March the 14th, which is a Thursday, and the morning of March 15th, which is a Friday.
We're going to hear from him February 27th.
Yeah.
And I also sent out the Tech Connects quick business plan update for the 18 and 39, free on February 27th. So we all do work together.
We do, and there's a lot of events that happen at these institutions too. The U of L has
Yes.
our VC Business Summit for small businesses and family-run businesses coming up in March.
March
Everybody
8th.
has their own stuff going on. So if you can plug into this network, it'll just get you more and more involved. There was a question.
Yeah, that was me. So I guess I just wanted to clarify, all of you awesome speakers that come to talk, are like, get in touch with us. We can help you. At the same time, Leslie has come up. So my question is, well, I was in here, well, should we talk to these people? Well, maybe these people are a better fit. My question is Leslie, contact Leslie, and Leslie puts you where you should be
That's right.
in that whole list of.
That's right. She does the intake,
Yeah.
and she'll do a bit of a triage with you so you can explain what the business,
Right.
and then we can figure out where should this person go. And
whether you're looking for Tech Connect, Alberta Innovates,
Well, to a point. So the only thing I'll say to that is Leslie can take care of that, and she does that through the program that's open right now.
that's right.
right.
Pretty soon that's going to be done.
That's right.
And so where I come
This is
in,
the
and I
process.
know I know Penny said it up front. So I work for Alberta Innovates. I'm the Southern Alberta TDA for Alberta Innovates, but I also chair RINSA.
That's right.
So because I chair RINSA, I'm kind of the one person not involved with all those organizations that pulls them all together into the room. And the constant conduit, so I'll say it like that, that's always there. So the one thing I'll say though is don't feel you have to pick. You can get in touch with pretty much any of us, and we'll make sure you get the right people, because you may need Bill, you may need Leslie, you may need me, you may need somebody else, right? So the one thing I will say, and it's a bit of a plug for Southern Alberta, we have a very, very high functioning, mature network for innovation down here. And people don't even realize it. But in terms of the province, we're actually really well regarded. I go up to Edmonton, and the ministries and the government and Alberta Innovates and the higher ups there consider Lethbridge to be a very high functioning, mature region. And it's because we work together. Very much a blue ocean strategy. We're not in competition. I'm not in competition with ATB. If I think ATB can help you, I am actually making an introduction for you. And we are very, very cooperative and collaborative in what we do. If you don't see somebody up in that RINSA line, they still work with us. Maybe they're not at the table every month with us, but we work with the chamber, and we work with Business Link, and we work with all these different organizations. So I'll say the advantage or benefit of being down here, and this isn't a shot at the bigger centers, I don't mean it like that, but we are, I think, more collaborative because of maybe the proximity, where, have the relationships, 2 degrees of separation, somebody knows somebody's nephew or uncle or something, it's always like that, but we work really well together. And so again, it's more about complementing each other's services and making sure you as a client get what you need when you need it, as opposed to, no, I just want you to talk to Leslie and Leslie's going to take care of you and Leslie's not going to put you in touch with somebody over at RBC, for example.
Right. So. Yeah, getting tied in. And as we talked earlier, the community and the network is so important and really works well here. So if any of you were, and if I wasn't here, for example, you talk to Lindsay and she can connect you through that
You
Rinsa
could
group.
call Tech Connect
Yeah.
or
Someone's gonna connect you.
Community Futures.
Yeah.
They would put you in touch. So that's the nice thing. But certainly Leslie is a really good intake for startups and things like that right now. Right now, and that's why I just keep saying that. When the program ends, certainly feel free to reach out to myself, CEC, Tech Connect, myself.
Yeah.
We're not
CEC,
going away,
Penny,
right?
good one.
So
Yeah.
CEC, Community Futures, Penny.
Everybody's free. And if, you know,
Yeah.
And the idea is that we all want Southern Albertans to grow and thrive. We're not just Southern Alberta Zoomers too. You know, because if a business grows and thrives.
It's for everybody.
grows
Yeah,
and
it is.
thrives, right? So don't feel like you're
We help.
prejudicial. They can all help you in their way. Take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I guess it was kind of hard to believe at first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
it
is
is.
hard to believe.
Yeah.
It actually is.
Yeah.
And if you look at the actual, the map of the reach of Rinsa, it goes beyond the geographical map that we have. There's clients in Calgary, Carstairs, some in Edmonton, Medicine Hat, we had some from BC, who are coming to Alberta. So we don't exclude anybody because you happen to be over the other side of the river. We don't do that. So
And we have connections.
everybody, no matter the gender, where they are, what their community they're from, we're going to want to help everybody.
Yeah, we have connections. I had a company that's looking at battery storage, right? So like solar battery storage. I actually sent a message out to all the TDAs in the province to see if they had any contacts within the regions. I had one back from Medicine Hat. I had one back from Edmonton. So I'm able, and Bill's done it too, we were able to make connections that maybe it would be harder to do on your own, right? Because we have people in different spots and different locations. Cal Koskowicz, Bill mentioned, he's with the National Research Council, NRC. He and I have side-by-side offices at the college. We're right next door to each other. We're constantly talking, hey, did so-and-so talk to you? What about this? And we'll meet with you together. Because if there's funding opportunities or just the opportunity to, maybe put some ideas against both of us just for some feedback, we'll meet you together. So there is that opportunity